Have you ever wondered if the world you see is actually the world that really exists? Think about it for a moment. The colors you see, the sounds you hear, even the smells around you, are they actually part of the objects themselves, or are they created by your mind? These questions lead us to a famous philosophical problem, known as the veil of perception.
Most of us assume that we see the world exactly as it is. If we see a red tomato, we believe the tomato is simply red. But some philosophers argue that this might be not true. According to the English philosopher John Locke, our minds work like dark rooms with small openings. Through those openings, information from the outside world enters and forms ideas in our minds. This means we might not experience the world directly. Instead, we only experience ideas or representations of it created by our senses. So imagine this. There might be a veil between us and reality. We only see the images created by our minds, not the world itself. But if that's true, how can we know that our perceptions actually really match?
This leads to the central philosophical question. Do we truly perceive the world itself, or do we perceive mental representation of it? In other words, can we trust our sense in the world really the way we experience it? Or could reality be completely different from what our mind shows us? This is why the problem is connected to philosophical systems. The idea that we may never be completely certain about what reality is like.
Now let's look at how philosophers try to answer this problem. First, John Locke argued that objects have two types of qualities. Primary qualities are things like shape, size, and motion. These exist in the object itself and do not depend on us, but secondary qualities like color, taste, and smell depend on our senses. For example, the redness of a tomato is not really inside the tomato. Instead, it is produced when light interacts with the tomato and our eyes interpret it. However, another philosopher, George Berkeley, had a different response. He argued that if we only experience ideas in our minds, then we cannot prove that physical objects exist at all. So he proposed something radical. Maybe reality is only made of perceptions. His famous idea was to be is to be perceived.
Let's think about a simple example. Imagine you are looking at a tomato in a bright sunlight. It appears bright red. Now, imagine looking at the same tomato in a dark room. Suddenly, it might appear almost black. So, what happened? Did the tomato change? Not really. What changed were the conditions of perception, like the light, your eyes, and how your brain interprets the signals. This suggests that at least some parts of your experience of the world depends on how we perceive things, not just on the objects themselves.
Finally, even though there are science experiments which can prove the existence of things and how we perceive reality, our final question is, how can you make sure that everything you are seeing without the help of science and even with the help of science know it is real?